All right, let's get into that. So okay guys, so now you are able to make the payment. So let's say you have selected these 2 seats, you want to pay, and now you are redirected here to the payment portal, and let's go ahead with the payment, and we provide our phone number, then we go ahead and pay. Okay, now when we choose success, let's say we provide the correct card details and go ahead and pay. Now we have paid for it, but how would our website or our server know that the payment has gone through? So let's go back to our page, our app again, and see whether it was able to record it. So you can see still it hasn't been booked for. Our seat hasn't been booked for. So we have to find a way of letting the payment portal tell our server or tell the backend that purchases have been made for these 2 seats. Okay, so we are going to use what is called Webhook. And when you go to the documentation for the Webhook, how the Webhook should be integrated at the back end of your application, so that Paystack will be able to use it. There's a documentation here about what webhooks are, so you can see whenever a certain transaction occurs, webhook on your webhook integration we trigger events which your application can listen on. This is where webhook, so you can read about this. Okay, so when you go down, it says here are certain things to note when setting up a webhook URL. Okay, is that if it's a .https, let's add the trailing and do a test post on the URL to trigger and all these things. So these 3 things you should consider when you are building a webhook. All right, and also it says when this is the important place for me, verifying your events to know whether the event that is coming directly from Paystack, and they give us 2 options. Either you can implement one of them or you can implement 2, and it says that watch the IP that is sending the event. It says that they call their event from just these 3 IPs, and also you can validate the signature on the headers. So we are going to implement the 2 of them in this our application. Okay, so let's jump into our Visual Studio Code and build the webhook. Okay guys, so let us build our webhook. Okay, first let's take out the sprint from our application. Okay, so we are going to build a webhook. All right, so we are going to call it webhook. Okay, it's going to take the request. And the webhook is also always going to use a post request. So if the request dot method is equals to post, then we continue on. Okay, so first we are going to check the IP, whether the IP is from the IP that has been listed inside the webhook here. These 3 IPs here. So first you are going to check that. And to do that, you are going to use a Python package called IPware to do that, or Django IPware. Yes, the import wait, from IP where import get client, get client IP. All right, so we are going to use the application name is Django IPware. So let me search it here for you, so that Django IPware. Okay, so there's it, Django IPware. So there's it. So you can pip install it. So this you can do pip install Django IPware. Okay, that's it. Okay, so that's what is going to help us get to the IP of where the request is coming from. So first IP, then it's routable. So the get client is going to return to us an IP. It's going to return to us the IP and whether that IP is routable. Okay, so it's a tuple, so you have to unpack it. So we check if the IP is in the settings settings Paystack. So we are going to create a list that contains all the IPs that have been verified by, or that are being used by Paystack. Okay, from there we do a pass. Let's just do a pass for the meantime. So let's go to the setting and do, wait, here is supposed to be Paystack IP. Paystack IP. All right, so let's copy this and let's send it to the settings.py. Okay, so beneath this we are going to add another variable. We are going to it's going to be a list, and you are going to grab the IPs from here, from the webhook here. These are the IPs. Okay, each of them is supposed to be a string. All right, so now we have the IPs here. Okay, so now we are now verifying that the IP is either from Paystack. The second thing that they said we should do is that we should verify whether the call is from them, or we should verify the signature on the request. So we are going to verify that. We are going to use a function that is called verify webhook. So we are going to create a helpers.py file inside our app. So let's create let's call it helpers.py. All right, and inside it we are going to create a function that is going to check the webhook. So we're going to call it verify webhook. Okay, it's going to take the request. All right, then first they said we should verify the, let's read what it says here. It says validates the signature. Valid events are raised with the header this, which is essentially the signature of the event payload signed using your secret key. So there's going to be this header inside it, and it has been encoded inside this signature, and it is equal to your secret key. So you are going to verify that and check. So we need some few things. at the top. Sorry, you need to import. You need this, and you need to import okay. So after you have imported this HAMAC, we are going to import also hashlib. All right, so now we have these two imports. So the first thing we need to bring here is our secret key. We are going to put it inside this variable called secret. It's going to be a byte. You are going to make it a byte, so it's going to be settings. That is from our settings. So we need to import our settings too. So from Django.conf import settings. Okay, now we have our settings here. So we want our secret key, so we call it Paystack underscore secret. Okay, and the encoding is a UTF-8 encoding. All right, so now you have it. Then the next thing we want to do is now we want a digester. We want a digester which is going to be equal to an HMark. Now you are going to use the HMark. Then you are HMark. You are going to create a new one. .new, and it is going to be with our secret and the request body, the request that we are passing. Request body, and we want it in a hashlib of SHA-512. Yes, 512. All right. So first you have to import byte. Oh, sorry, you don't need to import byte. It's supposed to be bytes instead of bytes. Sorry guys. So calculated. So now the next thing you want to do is get the calculate the hex for the digester. Okay, so calculated signature. So now this one is going to create the signature for us. The digester is going to create the signature for us, but you want to get it in a hex form. So that's what you are doing now. Digester dot hex digester or digest. Okay, then we check that if the calculated signature is equal to the request dot meta, and we check for the http underscore x underscore paystack signature. All right, I hope I spelled everything right. We check whether it is true. So if it is true, then we are returning true. Return true. Else return false. All right. Okay, so this is it. Now we are verifying our webhook. So you'll be asking where I had, so this is the signature that we are checking for, this thing here. This is why we have http://paystack_signature. All right, so now we have our function for verifying the signature on the request body. So whilst you are checking for the IP, whether the IP is inside the IPs you have listed inside the settings.py file, we also want to check that whether the signature, the verify webhook is true. That is, you are checking whether the webhook has the right signature. Okay, so if both of them are true, then it is indeed from Paystack, so we can go ahead and do the check-in or go ahead and do the booking. Sorry. Okay, so we are going to take the data from the, or let's take it as the response. So the response from, or the body of the request. So we are going to load it inside JSON, so I will be able to work with it simply. So JSON.load loads. Okay, you're going to take the request body. All right. Okay, so whenever a transaction goes through or it goes as planned, or when the person or the customer makes the transaction or pays for a thing on Paystack, they send an event that is called charge.success. So that's what you are listening on to know whether that the person was able to make the transaction or not. So at first you are going to check from the response or the body that it has an event of charge.success. Okay, so if response dot event, we are checking for the event key, check whether it is equal to charge dot success, then we know that the person was able to make the transaction, so we want to book the seat now. Okay, so first you are going to get the name, the first name of the person from the response. So it's going to be response inside it you have the data key, the data dictionary. Inside the data dictionary you have the customer dictionary too, and inside the customer dictionary we can get the key first name. All right, so we want the last name and the phone too as well. So we copy it down and just change this one here. No, change this thing to last name. Come here, last name. All right, and this one too is going to be phone. All right, so it's going to be phone. Okay, and this one is going to be the email. All right, so now we have the responses, the details of the customer. The next thing we want is the amount that was paid for. We are going to store that one too. So it's going to be response equal to inside the data, so it's supposed to be this way. Inside the data there's a key dictionary, a key amount. Okay, and you want it to be in an integer, so you are going to wrap it or convert it into an int. Okay, so also it is going to bring the referrer or the URL that we sent here to the front end, which redirected the person or the customer to the page where he or she made the transaction to inside the webhook. Okay, so let's get hold of it. So let's call it referrer. And this is going to be in the response. Inside is the data, and inside the meta body or metadata, and it is called referrer. Okay, so now we now have hold of the URL. Okay, so for us to be able to know the particular movie the person paid for inside the payment URL, the payment portal, we are supposed to check inside the payment intent with the referrer here and know the particular movie and the particular seat which the person wanted to book. That's another importance of the payment intent model too. All right, because the Paystack's URL or Paystack's webhook event does not send the particular movie or the particular seat the person wanted to book in along with it. All right, so first let's get hold of the payment intent. Payment intent is equal to payment intent. We are going to get an object, one particular object dot get. We are getting it with the referrer equal to referrer. All right, okay, so now we have the payment intent. The payment intent has the movie title and the seat that the person wanted to book for. Okay, so first let's get the movie that the person wanted to book for. So let's get the movie title. The movie title is going to be payment intent dot movie title. Dot movie title. Dot movie title. All right. Then now we want to get the movie itself so that we'll be able to add the seat to it. Okay, so now let's get the movie with the movie title. Dot object dot get with the movie title. It's the title, sorry, we don't have anything like movie title on. The title equal to movie title. Okay, so now you want to get the booked seat now. The booked seat. Okay, so the booked seat is going to be payment intent dot booked seat. Or no, it's seat numbers, if you quite remember. Let's check on the model once again. So you see I'm storing seat number. All right, seat number. Okay, so this seat number here is going to return to us a list that has been stored inside, that has been stored like a string. So you want to make it a list itself. Okay, so you are going to wrap it inside a JSON.loads. All right, so now we have a list now. Okay, so we are going to run a for loop on the seat numbers that are inside booked seat. So seat num in booked seat. So for each seat number, you are going to create a seat. You are going to create a seat for it. So we store it in a seat variable and seat. All right, seat dot object. So when you check inside the model we created earlier on, this seat This is for every particular seat inside a movie, or for a movie here. Okay, so let's go back to our view. So we are creating a seat dot create, and for the seat we need some few arguments. That's the seat number, or the seat num, which is equal to seat num, which is equal to seat num. Then we need the occupant first name, which is equal to first name. Alright, then the next thing we need is the occupant last name, which is equal to last name. The next thing we need is the occupant's email, equal to email. Alright, so now we have created a seat. For us to know that that particular seat number has been booked for the particular movie, we are supposed to add it to the book seat. If you check the model for a particular movie, it has book seat. You are supposed to add it to this book seat, which is a many-to-many field to the seat table. Okay, so since we have the movie, we want to add the seat to in this variable. Let's go on. So it's going to be movie dot book. It was called booked seats. Okay, this one here, booked seats. Okay, booked seat, we want to add a seat to it. So book seat dot add, and which seat do we want to add? The seat we just created. When we are done, we want to save the model. So movie dot save. All right, okay, so now we have added the movie to it, but we want to find a way of recording the payments that has been done, so that if there's any issue, then we can go to our payment table and check whether that payment went through or didn't happen. So we are going to create another table inside our model called payments. Okay, guys, so we are going to create the payment model now. Okay, so going to call it class, going to be class, class payment, going to be inheriting from models dot model. Sorry guys, my fingers are moving faster than my mind. Alright, so we are going to store some few details. So first we are going to store the first name. That is going to be a models dot char field. Going to have a max length of 255. We are going to copy this down. Alright, okay, so you are going to store the last name. Okay, this one off, the last name, and we are going to also get the amount, no, the phone number, the person's email first. The email, here is going to be an email field. An email field, and here is going to be the phone. All right, and the last one is going to be the particular movie. And the last one is the seat number. It's going to be models dot integer field. Sorry, it's models integer dot integer field, and here is going to be a foreign key to the models table, the movies table. So it's going to be a foreign key to the movie table, and we are going to set the on delete to set now, models dot set now. Oh, sorry. Models dot set now. Okay, and we are setting now equal to true, and blank equal to true. All right. Sorry. Okay, so we are done with the payment table. Okay, let's save it. Now let's go back to our view. Okay, so for each seat that is booked, we want to create a payment entry for it. So we're going to call it payment dot object dot create so it's going to take the first name going to be equal to first name, last name equal to last name, email. Okay, email is going to be equal to email. The phone is going to be equal to phone. And the last one is going to be the movie. The last two, the movie is going to be equal to movie. The last one is the seat now, going to be equal to seat now. All right, no, seat now. All right, so now we have created the payment for the particular seat number. All right, let's check on our model. Last one, last name, all this has been accounted for. All right, so the next thing we want to do is that after a payment has been done, we would like to send an email. So let's just leave a comment here, send email. We will implement that very shortly. So when all is done, when you are done with all this, we want to send a response to the to the API or to the server that sends the webhook to our URL. Okay, to our webhook URL. So you are going to send an HTTP response, of 200, just 200, just this, and you are done. Okay, so this is the webhook. You are done with our webhook. But the last thing we want to do is that if anything outside this happen, outside this thing we have created, or this logic that we have implemented here happens, we want to return to the particular server or the person calling this URL an HTTP forbidden. That is 403. So return an HTTP forbidden. All right. Okay. So now we are done with the webhook view. So we have to add it to our URL. Okay. So payment path. It's path instead. Then webhook. I'm going to call it webhook, and we are going to use the webhook URL. I'm going to call the name webhook also. Okay, nice one. So now we have our webhook working now. But when you go back to Paystack's URL, Paystack's documentation on webhook, so it says somewhere here that the webhook can't be called from a minute. Okay, so the third part here, when here is some things to note when setting up a webhook URL. It says ensure that the webhook is publicly available. Localhost URLs cannot receive events or cannot receive webhook events. So that means this are our localhost that we are using it to run our server here locally cannot receive the webhook event, but we have to find a way of testing our logic out to see whether it is working indeed. Okay, so we are going to use a service called Ngrok. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it so I'm going to leave the URL inside the description. The installation is very simple, and the usage you are going to go through, it's very, very simple and very good. It's also free for getting started. Yes, I think what you are doing, you just need a free part you'll be able to go through. So when you install Ngrok on your machine or your computer, you can start a server here. So Ngrok with this command Ngrok, then HTTP, then point it to the port which Django is serving our site locally, which is port 8000 now. Okay, all right, a minute. Okay, you see it gives us this URL. So let's copy this thing here and go to our website, or let's go to the browser. Let's paste it here and let's go there. Okay, we are getting an error. It says HTTP has an Ngrok whatever. Okay, so we need to put this thing inside our allowed host for it to allow us to use it. So let's just go back into our settings file. Let's go to our settings file and make some changes inside our allowed host. Inside our allowed host, I'm going to put this thing here. Please do not do this when you are writing a production code. This is just for development. That's why. All right, let's now refresh it once again. Okay, so you can see we are getting the same thing as the one we are running inside our local, now inside our local host. So let me change this thing to this. Okay, so now you can see it's working perfectly. So this is what you are going to use as our webhook URL, so that you'll be able to receive events or webhook events from Paystack. And if you are using any payment integration to it, I know that localhost can't be used as a webhook, so you might need Ngrok or any sort of hosting service for you to be able to receive the webhook event. So Ngrok is very good for that. So since Ngrok is running, we are going to give Paystack this URL as our webhook URL. When you go to your Paystack developer portal, the settings part, you see webhook URL. Webhook URL. I currently have one here. Let me take this one out. Okay, they are going to provide it with the one we received from Ngrok. You see, it's telling us that it is not a valid URL. It is because it is HTTP, so we just put an S here so I know that it is secured, and we point it to the view or the endpoint which the webhook is at. Webhook. Make sure you put this ending slash. It is very important, or else you won't receive the webhook or you get an error. Alright, so then we save it. Okay, so now let's go back to our application. Okay, so let's go to the server, or this one here. Let's refresh. Okay, so let's say we are coming to purchase these 2 seats here. Let's see whether it's our webhook will work. Click here, make payment. Let's go ahead with our payment. Let's go on with success. Okay, so now let's go back and see whether our webhook will work. You see, it's still not receiving the webhook. Still, so let's check our terminal here. Said webhook not found. HTTP 400 post not found. Okay, let's check our URLs. We made a mistake. It's not webhook, it's webhook. Okay, so even before you go back, when it posts to this webhook, you are going to get an error. It's going to say 400 forbidden. So let's first make this thing CSRF exempt. CSRF exempt. All right, so this is the only part of our application which we are going to leave as CSRF exempt. Okay, so let's go back again and make payment once again. This time around we are hoping it's going to work. Make payment. Okay, let's choose success. Let's pay this time around. Hopefully it's going to work. All right, let's go back, see whether it's still not working, and you have a 500 error. Wow. Let's check our server. It says get IP. It's missing something. It's request. It needs the request so to be able to verify. Oh guys, sorry for that. Okay, last time. Let's make payment once again. Let's pay. Success. Pay. It gave us forbidden. 43 forbidden. Okay guys, so we're getting the 403 return, and I debugged it real quick right now, and I saw that the mistake was from this webhook, the verify webhook function. So let's go inside here. Here it's supposed to be called. Okay, so this way, it's supposed to be this way instead. Alright, so let's save it. Okay, so now let's go back to our website again. Okay, so we have this one booked. Let's go ahead and do the payment, and this time around it's going to work. Okay, we are being redirected. Okay, let's put in our details, then let's go ahead with the payment. Let's go with success. Okay, let's go back and see whether this time around it's worked. Let's check how we had a 200. No, we had a 500 server error. Wow, wonderful. Oh really? Which mistake am I doing? This place, it's not supposed to be here. Let's take out the distance. Sorry guys, I'm really sorry for this. Alright, let me go through well before we test it once again. Okay, let's go ahead and go and check. This time around it's supposed to go through. Let's make the payment once again. They're being redirected. Okay, success. Let's choose success. This time around, fingers crossed, it's supposed to work. Let's check for VF. Another error. Okay, this time around is an error from us. We are supposed to make migrations before going ahead. Sorry guys, let's make migrations because we just created the payment table. So Python manage.py make migrations. Make migrations. Supposed to be migrations. So Python manage.py migrate. Okay, let's run the server once again. Okay, even when you go to the website, you see that the seat has been booked. Let's go back and see, even though we had an error. Okay, so you can see when it went through the first iteration, it's added a seat, but when it was about to end it, then it had the error. That's why this one was not able to be booked. So let me add this one and let's book it this time around. Final one, and we are done with the payment integrations webhook. P. All right. Okay. So this time around, you didn't get any error. Let's check our C200 payment 200. Okay. So let's go back and see whether it worked. So guys, we booked for 2 seats, but it seems only one was registered. So let's go back into our view. It seems we made a mistake here. Okay, so for each, so you see when you run the first for, immediately we send the return, which is not supposed to be. So when the return is sent, then the function is ended. So it's supposed to be outside the end instead. Sorry. All right. So let's go back and try again. Let's book these 2 seats here. Last time. This is the last time. I would say last time. Let's fill in with our details and pay. Alright, let's go back to the page. Wonderful, it's working perfectly. You can see the 2 seat has been booked. So our payment integration with the webhook is working perfectly.